Hello out there, all you people. This is Kenneth Kestner, and this is Storyforge. And today I'm going to be reviewing the second book in the Soulbound series by Hailey Turner, and it is called All Souls Near and Nigh. I've got to love the different names that she comes up with for these different books. Needless to say, this is another book in this series that I thoroughly enjoyed. Today we're diving deep into a sequel that had some massive shoes to fill. We're talking about All Souls Near and Nigh, the highly anticipated second installment in Hailey Turner's Soulbound series. Now, if you watched my review of book one, A Ferry of Bones and Gold, you know I was absolutely obsessed. It was easily one of my favorite books. And so going into this, I was extremely happy and a little bit nervous to see what would happen. Can a sequel actually outshine a near perfect debut? Well, according to best-selling authors and reviewers alike, this series is setting a brand new standard for the genre. And after finishing it, I have a few thoughts. In this video, we're going to break down the incredible new mythology, the massive character growth, and a brand new addition to the cast that I completely and utterly love. But we're also going to talk about a few things that frustrated me a little, including a certain main character's incredibly stressful decision making. Before we jump in, a quick spoiler-free setup. This is a direct sequel, so you definitely will want to read book one, or you're going to be out in the cold. I guess you probably could pick up with this book, but then you're going to want to go back and read the other book anyway. The story actually picks up a couple months after book one. Our favorite special agent for the Supernatural Operations Agency and powerful mage Patrick Collins has officially been reassigned to the gritty streets of New York City. So I want to talk a little bit about the plot and some of the new mythology that we see here. So what is Patrick dealing with in New York City? Well, navigating his new relationship with his soulbound werewolf partner, Jonothon de Vere, is already a lot, but the delicate peace treaties holding the city's supernatural underworld together are completely fraying. Dead bodies of young were-creatures are being found dumped in the subways, showing horrific signs of enslavement. Right next to them, investigators keep finding a small figurine of Santa Muerte, the personification of death. On top of that, the club scene is being overrun with Shine, a highly dangerous, addictive vampire drug that used to be made from actual vampire blood, but is now mostly lab synthesized to meet demand. But here's where Hailey Turner's world building goes from great to mind-blowing. While the first book focused heavily on European pantheons like Greek and Norse gods, All Souls Near and Nigh take us on a fascinating, dark journey straight into Aztec mythology. We get introduced to terrifying, powerful entities like Tezcatlipoca and Quetzalcoatl, whom Patrick, in classic grumpy fashion, affectionately nicknames Pretzel. We also cross paths with the Dominion sect, the Umcatl cartel, and pretty useless local god pack led by Estelle Walker and Yusef Khan. Author weaves real Mesoamerican cultural and historical lore into a modern-day police procedural, and high-stakes vampire turf war is a masterclass in world building. The Aztec gods in the book felt so much more captivating, fresh, and menacing than their Greek counterparts. If you love complex urban fantasy politics, this plot will keep you hooked. Okay, moving on, I do want to sort of talk about Jono a little bit and the romance. So let's talk about the romance, because the subplot in this book didn't feel sub at all. It was front and center. It was spectacular. In the first book, Patrick and Jono's connection was dominated heavily by their intense physical chemistry and the shock of their accidental soul bond. But in All Souls Near and Nigh, we get to see their actual emotional connection develop in a much deeper and more genuine way. They are slowly learning to trust each other, realizing that home isn't a place, it's a pack. And can we talk about Jono's glow up in this book? Because boy, do I love a growly, protective werewolf. In the first book, Jono felt a bit like an average character, but here he completely steps into the spotlight. He has to make incredibly tough decisions for the tiny makeshift pack he and Patrick are forming. Seeing him take decisive, powerful actions in critical moments made me want to cheer out loud while I was reading through the book. He exudes badass protective alpha. He has complete confidence, and it really has solidified him as one of my favorites. Now, moving on, and I don't know that I would necessarily call him the star of this show, but as much as I adore Patrick and Jono, we have to talk about the absolute star of this book, the character who completely stole my heart, stole Jono's credit cards, and stole basically every scene he was in, Wade Espinoza. Wade is a moody, grumpy, permanently hungry 18-year-old dragon fledgling with a seriously dark, complex past. He's currently navigating his own journey toward healing and safety, and he ends up crashing on Patrick and Jono's couch. The dynamic he brings to their apartment is just pure gold. There's a hilarious scene where Patrick asks where Wade is, and Jono just sighs and says, "In the kitchen, eating snacks and stealing knives." And Wade immediately yells from the walk-in pantry, "I am not." Shortly after, Patrick makes him empty his pockets, and Wade scowlingly pulls out a candy bar, 2 sets of car keys, a steak knife, and a bottle of vodka, and of course, Jono's actual credit card. Wade brings his incredibly endearing, sulky teenager energy to an otherwise very dark, violent book. You cannot help but root for him, especially after what he had been through, and that is a major part of this book. I'm not going to spoil anything there. Honestly, I don't think you can ever get enough of Wade, and his inclusion alone makes this sequel a must-read. And I really do love this character of Wade, mostly because he brings that little bit of humor that you need when a book gets very, very serious. And as I've said in the first review, I have already read all of these books, so I do know sort of what comes. And he's very much a character that I'm just glad he is in the book, or these would be extremely dark, brooding books, and I'm not sure I would have enjoyed them quite as much. So, let's go into a couple things that are a little tough for me in the book, although I loved it. As much as I loved the book, I have to keep it real. It wasn't a completely flawless experience. I did have a few little nitpicks, okay, and I'm still rating this book like a 9 out of 10, so don't get all upset with me. But a few nitpicks. Again, the pacing at the very beginning, the first, say, 100 pages, sort of slow, sort of like the first book. It seems like Hailey Turner likes to take her time setting up the story, and I think she does it really well. I don't want to say that it really drags, but it's just a little bit of a slower burn. But then when it picks up, it really picks up, okay? Once you pass through that initial 100 pages, it's going to skyrocket. And just the other thing that I know about these books, lots of times what's said in the first 100 pages in the first part might come back and help you understand things later on. Okay, another thing is Patrick Collins. He's a great character, love him to death, but he makes my stress level spike. Patrick, my man, one of these days you have to learn to say no. He has this relentless, almost foolish, self-sacrificing tendency that gets a little repetitive and frustrating in this installment. And I'm going to be honest with you, it does in every book, okay? So that's just something for you to understand. That is his character flaw, and really, it never gets any better. He literally agrees to a life-threatening, terrifying deal with the master vampire Lucian, who wants to take over the Manhattan Night Court, without even pausing to think about how it affects Jono or his own safety. His constant state of owing massive debts to terrifying immortals is starting to feel like a predictable trope, and I really hope he starts learning from his mistakes in the future. Well, I've already sort of answered that. He really doesn't, but I think I don't know that it's a trope. I think this is part of what he is, because he owes this debt to Persephone, this soul debt, life debt type of deal to the goddess Persephone. And I think this is just part of what he does, because I'm not sure he thinks it's going to come back and haunt him, because I don't know that he thinks the gods will let him die until he basically pays back the soul debt that he has. And so this is something that you're just going to have to get used to if you read this series of books. Also, a quick heads up for readers, the cast of characters in New York is massive. So sometimes just go with the flow. You know, they normally will tell you the the big characters or the main characters or who's important. Hailey Turner does a really good job of all that. Additionally, please pay attention to the content warnings at the start of the book. There is sexual assault described in the story. There's also Patrick and Jono's gay relationship. If you have issues with that, just understand that is in the book as well. The author is pretty good about giving disclaimers, but just make sure you know what's in there if anything like that bothers you when you're reading a book. All right, to get out of here, ultimately, even with those minor frustrations, and I would call them nitpicks, All Souls Near Nigh is a triumph. It's action-packed, thrilling, emotionally satisfying. It's easily one of the best sequels to an urban fantasy that I've read. Easily, it's a 9 out of 10 for me. Again, those nitpicks don't take it down below a 9 out of 10 for me. Hailey Turner, again, has created an incredibly addictive world. And just as the book wraps up, you think you can finally breathe. She drops a major hint about the storyline for book 3 that will make you scream. Seriously, Hailey is crazy for doing that. And again, I've read all the books, so I'm not going to give that away. I highly recommend this series to anyone who loves deep world building, high stakes magic, incredible mythology. If you're into gay romances, if you just are basically urban fantasy fan altogether, I think you'll enjoy this. Now, if you've already read All Souls Near Nigh, drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. Are you Team Jono? Are you obsessed with Wade, as I am? Are there other things you like that maybe I didn't mention? Let me know in the comment sections below. With that, I'm going to say goodbye, and we'll talk to you next time. Don't forget to hit that button to subscribe. Also, make sure you comment and like, and I'll be bringing more fantasy reviews. I'll see you next video. Goodbye.